Okay, here we go, you guys. Case study number 1. I kind of wanted to share at the beginning that when I read this case study in the very beginning, the teacher is making the jump from teacher to administrator, and some of the concerns that come up are fears that I have for myself making the jump from teacher to administrator. So it was good for me to read this and kind of pull from it the things that I felt like he did well to make the jump from teacher to administrator, and the things that I felt like I need to make sure I don't do when that time comes. So that part was really good for me. I went through the 4 questions, as I'm sure you guys did, and answered those. And I thought we could just kind of share, some highlights and things that that we wanted to share with each other. But one of my main ones on the very front page of the case study, I'm not sure that James going from PE teacher to administrator and standing in front of his faculty and saying, "How do you want me to handle this?" was really the way to go. Mm-hmm. How do you guys feel about that?
Well, I thought that he did a good job of getting them to buy in and to support him. It like he came in without really and was waiting for everyone else to call it.
And the way that I felt was that was good because like a lot of schools don't have, well, I know my district, if you teach at a school, you can't become the principal of that school until a few years have passed. So I thought it was good because you're making that jump from one to the other, and you have to kind of cut your friendships off and become that role of your superior. So having those teachers be able to come in and say, "This is how I want it handled," that provides more buy-in because now they're understanding, I'm not your friend, I may still be your friend, but I'm not going to take, and I can't have the relationship we used to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's important. I think one of the ways he did that is when he went in front of everybody and basically said, I'm not strong in these areas, mm-hmm. Let's work on it together, and kind of getting the buy-in and the input of the people that did have the expertise in those areas, and just kind of admitting his weaknesses as well. Mm-hmm. It shows that he's human, just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of information, though. I mean, there wasn't any talk about any other things or any leadership team. It was kind of like he went staff and talked to them, and they advised him reading coach, and mm-hmm. I feel like there was a little bit of a disconnect if there was more than just a reading coach or to her first in some capacity, why he didn't think of those things. So
yeah, I know we're supposed to think about the app cell and that evidence one when we were reading this case study, and it's pretty clear that like the PLC piece is missing, and that didn't go on, and he hasn't had that experience for sure. It's funny when I read this, because one of the things at my school that I have never taught is ELA. So I've never done the language arts piece, the reading piece. I've taught math, I've taught science, but I don't have that. So through the internship part that we're doing and getting the hours, I sit in on the language arts department's content meetings. I go to their planning. I went to the middle school intervention meeting. That's the area that I'm trying to grow myself ahead of time, because I know that's the area that I don't have the experience in. So I almost feel like I wanted James to have a little bit longer to get ready and prepare and have some more experiences. And that's not his fault. It feels like he kind of got thrown into it because, and I hate it because it said because he was popular. I didn't want that to be the reason he became the principal, but I do feel like James needed a little bit more time. He needed a little bit more experience and a little more time to just get some more experience in the areas that he felt like he was lacking in.
Mm-hmm. He's missing some of the stepping stones to get into that role. Right. I agree.
I do love how.
And I mean, like, looking back at what you said about the PLC, the entire time I was reading it, I was like, where's the PLC piece?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that could have helped. And also, it never mentioned, even the superintendent had mentioned, I want you to use the district reading coach. And he only used the school-based reading coach.
Right.
So I felt like if he would have used the district, he would have got more of what the district was expecting him to do. But leaving that piece out, I'm like, okay, what are you leaving out? They may not want you to grow leaps and bounds, but they want you to do something. But using all of those pieces. But it's like what they've said in the last class meeting. Most of us will become assistant principals before we become a principal. But even our professors have said you're not going to be ready for that principal job, even if you were assistant principal, because there's things that even as the AP you don't know that the principal does. So even throwing him into that role just because he's popular, we're still probably going to see it in our careers as we go on.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, Brandon. You know, the last question was hard for me about what could he be sacrificing by placing all of his emphasis in the reading program. And that part just, I feel like they pointed that out as an area of concern for him. But we all know, like, you got to be running PLCs in every content area at the same time at your school. You can't just say this is the year of reading and not the year of math or social studies or science. I mean, it has to be, you know, you can't just have a great year in reading and then the next year you're like, oh my gosh, we let our math scores go. And now what are we going to do about that?
Well, there's a lack of thought of the teachers who don't teach reading.
Right.
Aren't bought into it or involved in anything at that point. So I felt bad for those people who didn't get an opportunity to really have some initial support.
Right. I agree with you all. I mean, I would have liked to have seen where they're working on, you know, reading as a cross-categorical approach where we're focusing on reading skills, but we could do that with science content, math content, social studies content, so the kids are getting exposed to the same concepts with different themes.
I agree.
And being from the elementary background, when we start seeing reading scores or math scores, the first thing to go out the window is science and social studies. So once you cut those, but when you look at it from an upper grade standpoint, 5th grade in North Carolina is tested on science. And they can pull anything that the kids have ever supposed to learn from K all the way up to 5th grade. So you can be sacrificing grades because your scores for future assignments because those kids didn't experience that. So I was like, that may be one thing they're sacrificing, because sometimes teachers from science and social studies, oh, we're hitting this reading, so I need to focus more on the reading aspect than what we need to hit. And then also some kids aren't good in academics, they're good in physical education, they're good in the arts, and those things start to be sacrificed too, which can lead to your parents not supporting you any longer.
Yeah, it
because
is.
Their kids feel that they're defeated when they get to school. So that's the other kind of way I went with it, was the art.
I don't know, what I did want to point out is on this, when I was reading with his being a first-year principal and my principal's a first-year principal, one cool thing she did that kind of was similar to what he did, but she did on one, and she met with every single employee over the summer and for 15, just got their idea of what school was like, and she was able to then on her own kind of put that together into really knowing the school before it started. A little different from him because he knew the school, but you know, having that reflection was a good thing.
Well, I will say I was a little surprised too that he didn't seek, like you all said before, any outside help. He was just utilizing what was in house. He wasn't going to any other principals. He wasn't going to any other curriculum facilitators, reading coaches. I mean, I think all of us, even in our roles that we're in now, we reach out to other teachers, even from other schools, you know, peers that we have, colleagues. So I was a little surprised that that didn't happen either, or it didn't appear that it did.
Yeah, there was a lot of reading. In fact, he's asked for advice on testing skills, state testing issues, which usually you have someone else in charge of that.
Yeah, I agree, Heather. There was the one part in there, I may not get this exactly right. I'm gonna recall this, but where I think it was the reading coach at his school said she would lead something, but only if he came and did that. And I'm like, what? You can't do that every time. Like, that has to be you doing that. And then you come to him if you need support. But like, his job is not now reading coach. Like, that's not his new position. Like, he has to also run the school and all the other programs and things that are going on at the school. So I kind of felt like it turned into like he was the assistant reading coach at his school or something. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I even reflected on that in the question because I was like, she just gave him an ultimatum, like,
Right.
you have to be there or I'm not going to do something. I'm like, I would never tell my boss that.
Right.
So I was like, that's kind of like he's being taken out of the role of the administrator and you're trying to take the role of the administrator in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was just kind of very, I don't know how to put it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to
wrote in my reflection, like when I was writing in my stuff for question 3, I wrote the first sentence is James needs to turn the reading program over to the school's expert, the reading coach. Like, he has to turn that back to her, and he can, be a part of it, but he can't lead it with her.
Right. That's part of that delegation.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I know my current principal will come in during PLCs to show her support, but I do, I feel at my building anyway that there's a different feel when your principal's there versus when they're not there. And sometimes questions that people have or concerns that they have might not always come up. So, I mean, maybe in this instance, she wanted him there just to show the support and because everybody apparently respected him, but that, maybe later on kind of dwindling him away so that it can become a more open and frank conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Where people are asking questions and it's, more back and forth where you're not necessarily intimidated to ask a question that you might not want to ask in front of your boss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you guys do?
Say that again, Heather.
To say, want to move on to Q before we run out of time?
I can't hear you.
You're kind of going in and out, Heather. I'm sorry. Hey, what did you guys think about the second question? Was a little bit hard for me only because I haven't taught reading before. I did write for question 2, but I am curious to know what you guys said about question 2, where it said what more can be done to help with the reading scores in the school. And like, I wrote things like rethinking the academic groupings of students and things like that, and being able to really focus on which students were the ones who are not scoring, proficient with reading and things like that. And I'm not necessarily sure it needed to be a school-wide thing if they could narrow it down to these are the students that need the reading program. So what did you guys think about that?
Well, I said, again, lack of professional learning community opportunities. And it didn't seem like there was any one-to-one feedback going on with either the reading coach and the teachers. There was no peer-to-peer observing happening where, teachers are learning from others how to do things. So that was one of the recommendations that I had.
I took and I said, even doing a parent academy, if you have the parents who support, like we take and we kind of give information to our parents that they can use to help at home. So even then that bridges that gap between the school and the home. So that even makes for us, it's actually more parent support because now they know how to help their child at home. And especially with the tough thing like reading, because most kids struggle with reading and grow in these levels that we have to grow in the elementary school. So even a parent academy, I also said if you would have reached out to the district coordinator, that would have even helped him. PLCs was the other thing because I was just like, there's no PLC. How is this working?
Yeah.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try. One of the things I noticed was it didn't mention that they even looked at any data. We have no idea what the reading deficits was.
Right.
Was it comprehension? Was it reading fluency? So I mean, I thought that the missing piece is analyzing the data and really getting an idea of what that is. I think, you know, obviously what they were doing in some capacity wasn't working. So to put the reading coach as suddenly the guru for everything, when whatever she was doing before was not working, maybe she wasn't empowered. We have no idea, but I think they need to look at the data more and then focus in on that and figure out what is the benefit and what can we do to solve that, and ask some schools what they're doing correctly or you know, before. So.
Yeah, he's already been told that basically that the reading program isn't working. So at this point, you know, something different than what they have had going on, I feel like is the way to go at this point.
I agree.
Okay, so we kind of have already answered number 3 also, because it's what additional resources could James utilize to help the school improve. So we kind of already touched on that. Does anybody want to share anything else different about that?
It didn't discuss common planning times. And that's something, if they don't have common planning times at that school, that could be something that's hurting them, especially in the reading department. And sharing lessons. I mean, in my grade level, we share lessons all the time. We don't take and use the same lesson, but we modify it to fit our classroom. But then we know all of the students are getting the content. So when we do look at our common assessments and things, we know that the students were taught the same material. It's just, what are these students that are having deficits, which help our intervention and enrichment time and those types of things. So if the school didn't have any common planning, that could have been something that could have also affected the reading scores. If the teachers aren't talking to each other, then you're not really sharing.
Good point, Brandon. I didn't think of it.
Yeah. Well, you guys, number 4 was the one about what could he be sacrificing by just focusing on the reading program, and we kind of talked about that in the midst of, you know, our other conversations. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So I think we kind of discussed that in the midst. Does anybody have anything else they want to add?
No,
Okay, well, this was great conversation. You guys said a lot of things that I hadn't thought of. So I look forward to adding that to what I have and everything. So if you guys are good, then I think we're good.
We're good.
Okay, y'all. Have a great rest of your weekend.
You too. Thanks,
All right.
You too.
Bye.